Well, hi there. I'm Dave. This is my very first video, so I am by no means professional at this. This is just my amateur attempt to kind of record my story, give you an intro to myself, and what I'm going to try to attempt with on this YouTube channel that I've created. Obviously, you've probably already seen that I've got a few drones shots that I've taken. The idea behind the channel, which I'm calling DB's RV Adventures, is to record, nice aerial shots of, the places that we go to and see, different views along the route. We are planning lots of trips around the country. Oh, by the way, that's Edgar Martinez sleeping in his bed back there. I'm actually recording this inside my leisure travel van Unity FX that I picked up here back in October of 2024. This is a 2025 anniversary edition. We're really happy with it, and one of these days, I'm sure you've seen tons of tour videos of these things. Dean at Leisure Travel Van does a way better job of introducing what these things look like, so you don't need another one of those. But one of the things I thought I would do in this video is just kind of, not only introduce myself, but give you a little bit of my story of, why I decided to start kind of recording these adventures, recording what's been going on in my life over, say, the last 5 years. And if you'll bear with me, I'll kind of tell you that story. Everybody keeps telling me I need to write a book, and I don't know if it's book worthy or not, but I will at least record some of this down. Maybe it's for my grandkids, who can understand the story, as they get older. I've got two of the most amazing grandchildren in Cambria and Nolan. Cambria is a very precocious 7 going on 17, and Nolan is my happy-go-lucky little grandson who's age 5 and, just one of the joys of my life. But yeah, let's, why don't we start from the beginning, and then we'll take you to this point. So this story actually begins, almost 40 years ago. Hard to believe I'm going to be an old man and turn 60 this year. Back in my early 20s, my wife and I, my gorgeous bride, who we've been married now for 30, I think it's 37 years this year. I told her as a very young man, one of the things that I wanted to do when I got up to retirement age is I wanted to get myself one of them big old 45-foot pusher diesel motorhomes with every option, and I wanted to travel around, the country. Funny how life gets in the way. We decided to start having kids a lot earlier than we anticipated, and that's fine. I'm 60 now, and I see friends of mine that are getting married, and they're, either married or having kids in their mid-40s, and it just exhausts me. So I'm kind of glad that my beautiful daughters are in their 30s now, and I don't have to. I guess you're always raising your kids, right? But it's nice to see where they come and the beautiful adults that they become, the beautiful women they become, that sort of thing. So for, last, 35 plus years, I have just been working. My primary job, it's really hard to explain what my job is. I've been in the tech industry since I was about 15 and a half years old. I worked for the U.S. government for probably 14 years. I started at the ripe old age of 16. Got into computers before computers was really a thing or a major job. In fact, back then you only had one big mainframe computer and that everybody logged into and used. And heck, back in the 80s and 1984, when I graduated from high school, it's when the first Macintosh came out. So yes, I am dating myself from a geological standpoint. So I spent a lot of time doing that, and then I've had a very fortunate career that I got involved with a lot of really good companies like Silicon Graphics and EMC, and helped start and build a bunch of different companies, early on employee at places like Isilon and Cumulo and other places. And I just had a very fortunate career where I've been able to, help build some great companies, more importantly, build some great friendships. And those jobs have basically taken me around the world. In the last 30 years, I was basically on a plane every day, sometimes every other day, and I've been around the planet, literally, I think the last time I counted was like 55, 56 times. It's been, it was great. I got to see the world. I made a ton of friends. I worked on some very cool, interesting projects. It was a good time, right? I cannot complain about my career. So let's fast forward up to 1999, early 2000 time frame. I had just gotten back from Hong Kong, got sick with the flu. In fact, the docs told me I had the flu and then I had pneumonia. It now turns out that what I really had was COVID. Before COVID was really a thing and before COVID was a pandemic, it kicked my butt. I mean, I've been sick before in my life, but this thing I was down for well over 4 or 5 weeks trying to recover from that. And while things were going really well and I was recovering from it, I was just getting back into the saddle, planning a bunch of trips. My wife and I were working on the finalization of our last bit of remodeling on what was supposed to be my retirement house, which was this beautiful place that we had on 90 feet of lakefront out on Lake Wilderness, which is a little town called Maple Valley that we raised our kids in. Great place. We had just moved all the furniture out of the living room and got it all out to the garage and got all of our boxes out to the garage because the guys were going to come in and do some gutting and do the final, like I said, final renovation that we were going to do in this house. And I woke up about 3:30 in the morning to do the old man pee. For all you guys that are in your late 50s, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. My feet felt weird. In fact, they were so weird that I could barely stand up. And I felt really weak, and I couldn't figure out why. Now, earlier that evening, my back had been hurting, and my wife suggested I take a muscle relaxant, which I did. I hate taking muscle relaxants, but I've had a bad back for a long time, so, I figured, okay, no big deal. And I just figured I was having a bad reaction to the muscle relaxant. But I could barely make it back to the bedroom, from the bathroom. So there's a guest bedroom right next to the bathroom that we had in our basement where we were staying doing the remodel. And I decided, hey, I'm just going to go lay down in there and, everything's going to be fine. I'll just, sleep this thing off. Well, it turned out that I ended up sleeping most of the day. And around 6, 7 o'clock at night, I tried to get up. My arm collapsed underneath me. I fell out of bed, wrapped myself around the coffee table, which injured my back even more. Yelled out to my wife hey, can you come help me? She helped me. I tried to get back up into the bed, and I was so weak I couldn't barely move my arms, and I just ended up, having her help me lay down on the floor. Well, needless to say, she's a little freaked out. I kind of take these things in stride because I think I'm superhuman and I will never, have to worry about these kind of things. But it was still freaking me out a little bit too. And she wanted to call 911. And, funny little side story. I'm like, hey, before we call the doc or call 911, can you take the garbage out? Because, we got all this garbage left over from the remodel and it was garbage day. Oh, she was so mad at me. You should have seen the look on her face. So I think she went and took the garbage out on purpose so she didn't just strangle me right then and there, which I probably deserved. She came back about 10 minutes later and I'm still laying on the floor and she goes, okay, now what do you want to do? And I said, well, maybe it's time you call 911 because in the meantime I've become blind. I can't see anything more. Obviously you start thinking you're having a stroke or something like that. But again, I'm invincible. So, I'm one of these guys that have lived hard and played hard and used up about 7 of my 9 cat lives and probably another 14 of my Mario Kart lives that I stored up during when I was playing games as a younger guy. So, bottom line, she called 911. I was kind of going in and out of consciousness at that point in time. Fire department brought a lot of big firefighters, as she warned them to do, because as you can probably tell from this video, I am not the smallest of dudes. I don't know how I flew around in planes for 30 years, because God did not create me to fly around in little steel tubes in the sky, but I did it. And when you build up enough miles, right, you get to fly up in first class, with all the elites. And I end up in a local hospital, and of course, they're doing stroke protocol, thinking that I've had a stroke, because at this point in time, I can't feel my legs. I can barely raise my arms. And, it kind of went from bad to worse. They admitted me in our local hospital, had no idea what was wrong with me. Here's where the story kind of changes. Whether you're a believer in God and Jesus Christ, I will tell you that I am. He's been protecting me all these years. And once again, he sent one of his special little guardian angels to look over me. And a little intern had come in to my hospital bed, and she was examining me. And she looked at my wife, and I remember her saying, because again, I was kind of in and out, but she says, I think I know what he has. Do you mind if I make a phone call to someone? And it turned out she had just got done interning under the head of neurology for Tacoma General Hospital, who also happened to be one of the specialists on the West Coast for a disease I never heard of, an autoimmune disease called Guillain-Barre Syndrome, or GBS for short. And so, long story short, they put me in an ambulance. They took me down from, our local hospital down to Tacoma General. Normally to check for this disease, apparently they do a spinal tap. She took one look at me and said, "No, I know exactly he has it. Let's get him going." Now with GBS, it's an extremely hard disease to diagnose. A lot of people who get it and get what's called GBS level 3, I believe is what they call it, 98% of them die from it. Because one of the things that happens is it'll literally paralyze you from the neck down. It'll paralyze you, your diaphragm, which of course, makes your lungs work. And I was heading in that direction. So they got me in intensive care, and they started me on a series of what's called, there's really only a couple of treatments for this to try to stop the disease. There's no cure, but in this autoimmune disease, they can do some things to kind of, stop it in its tracks. And one of them is a process called plasmapheresis. And what plasmapheresis does is I'm probably boring you with this video, I'm sorry, and you can shut it off now if you want, or if you're still interested, I'll keep going a little bit. Plasmapheresis, they hook you up with shunts in your neck and your arms, and they essentially recycle and go through all 14 liters of your plasma in your body, filtering it out. And then giving you new plasma. Essentially what they're doing is they're completely wiping out your immune system, because in the case of Guillain-Barre, what's going on is your white blood cells are attacking your body, similar to leukemia, and they're destroying the myelin, which is the sheathing that goes around your nerves. I've learned more about this disease than I really wanted to know, or thought I would have to learn. Destroys that sheathing. That's the communication layer between the brain and the nerve cells, and that's what paralyzes you, because your brain can no longer talk. Just like an electrical panel, right? If your breaker goes off, you can no longer control the lights, on the other end, because there's no power going from point A to, point B. So they start that process. They'll do it 5 times over 10 days, and at least in my case. They also filled me up after they got that done. They filled me up with, oh God, what was the name of the other drug that they gave me? Oh well, I'll put it in the video. I'll put a thing in there when I remember what it is. But there's another drug that goes in and helps to start building up your autoimmune system. I was in intensive care for almost 30 days there in Tacoma General. Unfortunately, my stats crashed, and they ended up having to put me on a respirator because my diaphragm paralyzed. Then they put me into I think they call it a medically induced coma, but the disease had hit me so hard that they really didn't have to do that. I was pretty much in it myself. Next thing I know, I'm waking up on Easter Sunday. I was kind of in and out a little bit. I remember voices talking to me, this kind of thing, some of the nurses, but really not alert and conscious. But I woke up on Easter Sunday. Fun fact, I was born on Christmas Day. Don't make any kind of connections there. I just think it's a fun fact. They decided to pull me off the respirator, and when they pulled me off the respirator and I started to become more and more conscious, that's when the pain started. Now, if you've ever gone to a doctor in the last, say, couple months, or even the last year, you walk in and the first thing the nurse says is they show this little chart, with all these little smiley faces and sad faces, right? Like 1 to 10, how would you describe your pain? There wasn't anything on that chart for the pain I was feeling. Best way to describe it was it was like someone was taking a knife, basically taking an oxyacetylene torch, for all you welders out there, you'll know exactly what that is, heating it up to, like, in my opinion, it was 10,000 degrees, and then repeatedly stabbing me all over my body with that knife and that heated knife. Essentially what was going on, according to the doctors, was my body was trying to make reconnections in the nerves, and this is a part of the Guillain-Barre disease, I should say, not the thing. Man, whew, it's not good. And they put you on all kinds of painkillers. They put you on all kinds of stuff to try to eliminate the pain. At one point I was on the same amount of morphine, I guess, is what one of the nurses told me that they usually give to people hospice care that usually just kind of sends them on their way, so that they die peacefully. And I'm a little stubborn. I think I mentioned all my cat lives and Mario lives, and so there's no way that was going to happen. I was going to fight this thing. And so I was in the intensive care for another couple of weeks. They then moved me to a rehab hospital. And the first day I was in the rehab hospital, doc comes in. I'll never forget this. He comes in and he looks at me and he says, "Dave, you got to understand something. You're paralyzed, basically from the chest down. I had a little bit of movement with my right hand and my right arm." And he said, "This is your new normal. This is what's going to happen. And the reason you are here in this rehab hospital is so we can teach you things to learn to live in a wheelchair, learn to work with nurses as they take care of you the rest of your life." Yeah, that's a sobering thought at age 55. Needless to say, and pardon the expression, I gave him one of these and I said, "Doc, you are not worth the real thing. And I'm going to walk my butt out of this hospital." I had a second guardian angel who came in. I called her Mama Bear. And she was tougher on me than any football coach, any doctor, any friend that I've ever met. And I will love this woman. Her real name was Mary Eileen. Mary Eileen, if you're watching this video, I love you. And you're one of the best people I've ever met in my life. But she was the head of physical therapy at this rehab hospital I was in. And she took me under her wing like a mama duck in her flock. She worked with me every day, multiple hours a day. The end result is that after 14 weeks, I was to the point where I had a lot of my upper body strength, was starting to move my legs, not fully, and got me to the point where I could get out of the hospital, go home and have nursing and rehab and physical therapists at my house, back at my lake house, so that I could, continue to get better. Now, of course, the doc told me that, that was never going to happen, that I was never going to walk again. And before I left the hospital, the same doctor who told me that that was my new normal, I managed to pull myself up out of that wheelchair and look him right in the eye and move my right leg and my left leg till I could take a step. And I said, "You want to watch me walk out of this hospital?" And he just put me in a big old bear hug. He was a good guy. Sorry, I'm getting a little emotional here. It was, I told him I was going to walk out of there. So I didn't quite walk out, but I definitely took a couple steps. So that's when the real journey began. That was back in, I would say August of 2020. We started, working from there. And it was, like I said, physical therapists and outpatient physical therapy, specialized neurology and physical therapy programs. At one point, my insurance actually ran out. I mean, thank God for major catastrophic insurance. I think my hospital bill, just Tacoma General was over $1 million. I remember my wife telling me that the pharmacy bill was like $99,000. So needless to say, I don't have that kind of money, but I had good insurance. So thankful for that. So note to self and note to everybody else out there, always make sure you have good insurance. When the insurance ran out, so I'm still in the wheelchair. I'm walking a little bit with the help of forearm crutches and walkers. And I just said, hey, I'm going to keep going. And so I started paying out of pocket another physical therapy company and a company that dealt with life-changing exercising, all this kind of stuff. And started to proceed to do that program for well over 7 months, to the point where I could walk with the help of a walking stick and exercising, every day. So let's just fast forward. I'm sure that was very boring and you didn't really want to hear that, and you probably all fast forwarded through that story at this point in time. But let's fast forward here to now, which is, what are we? What is this? May of 2025. May of 2025, I am walking. I don't walk very far. I can walk maybe 100 yards a day. Still have to use my walking stick, but I'm walking. Unfortunately, the Guillen-Barre also, when you get one autoimmune disease, it likes to trigger others. So it triggered a couple of autoimmune diseases and other conditions, one of them being spinal stenosis and another one being degenerative disc disease. And I have another whole set of doctors who are absolutely amazed that I'm walking. They say, technically, according to my MRIs, I shouldn't be walking. But I'm like, yeah, great. Watch me. You're starting to see a pattern here, huh? I don't listen well to medical authority. It's a lot of this, right? It's all mental, really, at the end of the day. I have never let anybody tell me I can't do anything. Anybody or any authority that's ever said, you know, you can't do something, or you don't have the skill set, or you don't have the training, or you've never been to college. I've heard it all. If there's anything you take away from this video is never let anybody put you down. Never let anybody tell you that you're limited. You can do whatever you set your mind to. And so that's what I'm fighting through now. I'm fighting through this, you know, this back disease, and now we're going to go full circle when I started this whole video. So remember when I said that, you know, back in my younger years, I wanted to have an RV, and I wanted to go see, you know, drive around the United States. Well, that became even more prevalent because, you know, I've flown around the world, you know, like I said, you know, dozens of times, more than a dozen times, well over, you know, 50, 60 times. Heck, in my last trip, or one last year, the trip before I got sick, I'd done well over 286,000 miles just in 1 year, you know, flying to places like Singapore and Korea and Japan, and absolutely loved the people there, absolutely loved what I was doing. But, you know, I'm not built for that anymore. There's just no way. I mean, I'm, you know, obviously gained a little too much weight just laying around. It's kind of hard to exercise when your back doesn't want to cooperate or your legs don't want to move. And that's what I do every morning. I get up and I convince my legs that they are going to move and they are going to work for me. And I get up and I start my day. Backing up here to October 2024, well, actually backing up almost a year ago, I saw this video on this 25-foot Class C RV. I guess they call it a Class B+. There's really no, you know, official category of B+. Called a leisure travel van, specifically the Unity, which is based off of a Mercedes, what they call a Sprinter platform. And it was 25 foot long, and there's this great guy from what they call Tripoli, the leisure travel van. If you've ever seen one of his videos, the guy is amazing. He knows how to sell these rigs. Well, my camera turned off again. Still learning on how to use this thing. So let me rewind and go back to where I was. I think I'd already mentioned that I told my wife I wanted to buy an RV, and I did a bunch of research. And bottom line is that we decided to go ahead and order a leisure travel van from a great little dealership down in Oregon called Johnson RV. And we put the order in June of 2024. They said it's going to take about a year for us to get. It's like, okay, fine. I'm just going to keep studying on how to run this thing and what things I need for it. And by the way, the amount of things you need for an RV, the RV is cheap compared to all the stuff you buy for it, you know, later on, and figuring out, you know, what it'll all fit. Because like I said, a 25-foot RV Class C's doesn't have a ton of space to put stuff in. But I really wanted to run it, you know, efficiently. Well, in October, we got a call from Johnson that the exact same model of RV that we had ordered was available. Apparently someone ordered one and didn't want it. So we went down, took a look at it. It was the 2025 60th anniversary FX model. Absolutely gorgeous. Bottom line is even though it was winter time, we decided to go ahead and buy it and then just store it until we could go and start driving it. So yeah, we took it home from October until here just about a month and a half ago. I've been buying different things for it, you know, all the stuff you buy for a new RV, like things that help you protect, surge protect for your, you know, for your power, even though, you know, it has a surge protector in it, you know, you can't be too safe. All the hoses you need, all the little odds and ends and bits and bobbles and all that kind of stuff. Did our first trip to Boardman, Oregon. In fact, there is a drone video up on my YouTube page of that particular campground. Absolutely gorgeous, right along the Columbia River. It's wonderful. Here last week, we went to the Icicle RV Resort outside of Leavenworth, Washington. There's drone video of that as well. You probably have seen it. Right now, I'm actually recording this from the KOA campground just outside the Spokane Valley. I'm recording it now because the wife and the whole family is out doing the Bloomsday Run here in Spokane, which is a big 12, I think it's 7.5 mile run or walk. Needless to say, I'm not running these days. The only way, you know, and the only way I would run is if a mountain lion was sitting on top of a grizzly bear chasing me, and then even then I think I just roll over and play dead and hope they just ignored me from that perspective. So I'm hanging out at the campground. I'm recording this video, trying not to bore you guys. In fact, I'm going to go throw a drone up in the air. I love drones. That's a whole nother story, by the way. My experience with drones in the early days of drone technology with a Parrot drone. pretty funny story. I'll have to record that later on and tell you about, you know, how you can launch one and destroy it all in less than 5 minutes. But my daughter and I talk fondly of those moments. She still thinks it's fun. So the fact that I'm flying them and not crashing them now is pretty great. So yeah, that's my story. Hopefully it wasn't too long. Hopefully it wasn't too boring. Again, I'm going to record a bunch of different videos. The next big campground I'm going to is the Sea and Sand Resort outside of Depot Bay, Oregon. We've got a space, apparently they tier all the spaces, so every space has got a great view of the ocean. So I'm really looking forward to that. In fact, I'm doing that with some in-laws of ours, and they've got a new Class B van, and so we're going to go down together and have a good time. Throughout the summer, I'm going to go to different places, record different videos, record different drone videos. September is going to be fun. September, we are planning on driving the entire Pacific coast from the Oregon coast all the way down to San Diego and back. We're going to stop along a lot of different campgrounds. I'll be recording a lot of video, a lot of drone footage, and that kind of stuff. And that'll take us into the wintertime where, you know, wintertime here up in Washington State around October, you're pretty much done. And of course, the leisure travel van is really not a 4-season van, so you got to winterize it and park it away and put it to bed for a little bit. But come January, February timeframe of 2026 is when the real adventure begins. We are planning on doing a cross-country trip going down through Arizona and Texas and New Orleans, and eventually ending up in the Florida Keys for at least 2-3 weeks. If I get my way, it'll be a full month. We'll spend at least a month in Florida. Lots of friends down there that we can visit with. And then go up the East Coast. We're going to do the Outer Banks of the Carolinas. We're going to go up to Virginia, do Virginia Beach, and, just see all the sights. And then, head it back home at that point, back home. I don't know, maybe we'll try to figure out a way we can do the changing of the colors and the seasons in the Maine area and that kind of stuff later on. But we'll, it's all right now. It's just kind of a plan within a plan. So, and then eventually, maybe in a couple of years, we'll head up to Alaska and spend the whole summer up in Alaska. So all along the way, I'm going to be recording videos. I'm going to be recording drone videos, telling a little bit more about my adventures in life. If people think that that's something they want to hear, if they don't, just comment and tell me I don't want to hear about your life, and I totally get it. You don't need to hear about my life. Hopefully, just, seeing the stuff in the recordings that we take of the different landscapes and adventures we go on will be, more than enough. There are so many people out there on YouTube that do this kind of thing. The Hanks, who do amazing videos. Van Caskis, who do just amazing things. I mean, there's just so many people out there who are so much better at this than I am. Maybe I'll get a little bit better at it as I go along. Hopefully you find this content fun. I'm mainly doing this, for myself and for my grandkids, so they can see what, Papa is doing when he's out and about in his RV. They can live a little bit vicariously through me while they're still having to go through school and doing the whole grown-up thing. My plan is that when we're all done adventuring, or if my body finally gives out on me and says, nope, you don't get to do it anymore, which is going to be really tough for my body to tell me that, because I don't listen to it telling me I can't do things, like I just tell the doctors as well, as I told you earlier. My plan is to give this to my kids and let them continue to adventure. I mean, it's an amazing rig. All you got to do is go out and look at the videos that Dean has done on this rig, and it's built so well. It is definitely glamping in its finest. We're very comfortable in it. We're very happy with it. It drives like a dream. We're going to have lots of adventures. So again, I hope you've enjoyed this video a little bit. I hope it wasn't too long. Again, I'm Dave. I will be recording a lot more of these and putting them up on my YouTube channel that I'm calling DB's RV Adventures. And I hope you find some enjoyment in these and learn a little bit along the way, and some of the videos that I record that show the amazing landscapes and areas of this country that I think too many people ignore. It's an amazing, amazing country. I'm planning on hitting a lot of the national parks and this kind of stuff as well. And bonus points, now that you can actually record in national parks again, because the government took away those regulations. Hopefully I'll get some great video of different places along the way there, along that way. So thank you very much. I hope you have a great day. Have a great week. God bless, and take care.